Tonight, I want to talk about the importance of knowing where loyalties lie. You're tuned in for those in the cheap seats. I want to have a discussion about flags and tribalism. I'm going to read to you the definition of a flag, and then I'm going to read to you the definition of tribal or tribalism, so we can begin this discord. Flags are national symbols. Every country has got a specific flag as their national symbol. The first flags were flown in the 18th century to tell others that we own a piece of land, proclaim a possession, and that we rule over the people and land. Its designs and colors symbolizes countries and identify their values, beliefs, and history in different ways. Each flag represents its own country and nation all around the world and conveys a specific message. For instance, the American flag stands for freedom, liberty, and civil rights. The latter part of that is questionable. We humans are social species, tribal by nature. We're given to gathering in community and familiar groups. Belonging or our capacity and need for empathy, compassion, and communication. It's in our DNA. We're the most evolved of all species on Earth, the most intelligent and creative of God's creatures. Tribalism is the state of being organized by or advocating for tribes or tribal lifestyles. Human evolution has primarily occurred in small groups as opposed to mass societies, and people naturally maintain a social network. In popular culture, tribalism may also refer to a way of thinking or behaving in which people are loyal to their social group above all else. So if you got a tribe and they got a tribe, then it's a motherfucking tribe because I got mine. Now everyone is okay with tribing up. Everyone tribes up. But when it comes to foundational Black Americans, then everyone has an issue with us practicing tribalism that everyone else practices. Now, I just gave you a rundown, I should say, of what flags are, what they represent, and the definition of a flag. And I also gave you the definition of tribalism and the components that actually come out of tribalism by human nature. So why did I go through all of this? I know it was a lot of, technical babble, but I had to go through that so we could all be on the same page here. Now, the reason I'm talking about flags and tribalism is because we have a lot of people, a lot of foundational Black Americans, not understanding that just because someone may have melanin in their skin, they may be melanin complected, they may even look similar to you, they may even speak like you, they may even participate in parts of your culture. Does not equate to an ally. A lot of times these people are actually gatekeepers of white supremacy. And they're also used as tools to deceive and trick you into agendas that do not benefit foundational Black Americans. Now, everyone who immigrates to this country, particularly, let's talk about so-called people of color. We're going to talk about Africans that come over. We're going to talk about Caribbean Negroes that come over. And we're going to talk about Spanish Negroes that come over. And I did say Negroes for a reason because they're all Black. Now, when you have these immigrants come over, they, for some reason, not all, but some, and I'm going to speak in generalities here because, this is a show that I have to do, and I can't go and speak to every individual, but I'm going to use generalities for a specific reason. Let's look at immigrants that come over from the continent. In particular, I want to look at Nigerians because Nigerians are very problematic. Not all of them, but a lot of them. First of all, I need foundational Black Americans to start doing history and researching history. Nigerians sold you into slavery. They were a big part of why you're enslaved. And when you're speaking about Nigerians, I should say, you have to ask them two questions. I believe you should always ask them two questions. Were your ancestors and your family slave owners or slave traders? And you might want to throw in a third question, slave capturers. because the Nigerians are notorious slavers, which is why a lot of times when they come over, the most affluent ones come over because their family lineage goes back to slave trading, slave owning, and slave catching, which helps prop them up in the future to be economically viable, which then they're attractive enough for the American government and the powers that be to allow them to come over here to coup. Now, let's get back to what I was speaking about. When I speak about tribalism and flags, the Nigerians have a knack for coming over to America, or coming to America, pun intended, and flying their flags and practicing tribalism. And what does that mean? Well, you'll see on their social media accounts, you'll see Nigerian flags. You'll also see that they tribe up, and they stay within their own social circles and their own social constructs. Now, that's with the ones that immigrate over here. Now, when they start to reproduce and have children, the children are a little different because the children do embrace. I shouldn't even say embrace. That's the wrong word. The children do partake in our culture. However, they're being taught by their parents that our culture is only to be used as a tool to blend with foundational Black Americans, but it's not a culture that you should absorb into oneself. In other words, you're a Nigerian that happens to be an American, not a Nigerian American. And and I know a lot of people saying, what's the difference? Well, I'll break it down and I'll tell you the difference. When you have a Nigerian that happens to be an American, that Nigerian is fully enthralled into Nigerian culture and uses American citizenship as a benefit to further themselves or oneself. They're a Nigerian that's enjoying American freedoms. They're not a Nigerian American that is here and part of our culture and understand that Blacks are thoroughly mistreated by the American society as a whole. So when you're a Nigerian that happens to be an American, 9 times out of 10, you're a gatekeeper for white supremacy. You know what I mean? You know what they say. They say Akata. They call us cotton pickers. They call us slaves. They say we don't know our history. They have all these negative denigrating terms for foundational Black Americans, and they fly their flags proudly. Now, I will say this. Let me step back for a second and say there are plenty of Nigerians over here who are Nigerian Americans, meaning that they are Nigerians, but they absorb our foundational Black American culture, and they understand that when the water runs dry, they're Black first, an American second, and a Nigerian third. Because when it gets real, I don't care what flag you fly, they're going to see that you're Black and they're coming for you. Bottom line.